Hi, welcome to my mini kitchen. I'm gonna make one of my favorite dishes today, salsa. Great party food, great everyday food, great on your eggs, great on your dinner, rice, beans, you name it. We're gonna showcase how to actually cut a tomato, because if you get a salsa that is too watery, it just falls off your chip, you wind up getting no chunks, and it's just annoying. Take off the stem, cut in half and quarter. Now there's two ways of doing this. You can either take the knife all the way down the center and then scoop out the inside, which this isn't my favorite method just because there's a little bit more waste. It's not as clean, and I feel like I hate wasting food. But that's the boat, and this is traditionally how you do it. Or you do like I do, take off the green part and use your thumb just to poke out where all the juice is. A little messy, but you waste less of the tomato, and you still get all the seeds out. Now, once you get the seeds out, it's the same cut for all of the different vegetables and fruits in my dish. First, you're gonna do a matchstick or a julienne, and then make a small dice. Now that I've de-seeded this guy, this is the prep work, and this is where all the love is. The more work you do now, the better your salsa will taste. So you do a very thin julienne, little sticks, and then a little dice. Now, I'm a little neurotic about my salsa, and I'll do about 8 passes over this, just so that it's essentially pureed, but done by hand. And when you go to Mexico, the locals, you know, some still do it by hand, but most of them just throw it in the blender. There's something really magical about using a knife to do it. It has a better flavor. It has a totally better flavor. Now, fortunately for you guys, I've pre-cut everything, so you don't need to watch me julienne and dice all my fruits and veggies. So pop all the tomato in here. Tiny mouth on this jar. And you'll notice that I'm using a wooden spoon. I learned from a fellow named Fernando in Mexico to never use a metal spoon when you make salsa. He says it ruins the salsa. He says the flavor needs to be done with a wooden spoon. Then I used 1 red pepper. Now, you can also substitute out the tomato and the peppers and make this more of a fruity salsa. You could do papaya or mango. We're just gonna go for the classic flavor today. Beauty. And then I used shallots and white onion. Now, I really like the flavor of a shallot because it marries the onion and the garlic together, but white onion is traditional, so I didn't want to forget it. Now, the amount of onion you use is kind of important, but this is, again, is a flavor thing, and it's to your preference. I like quite an oniony flavor, so as you can see, there's about a cup of shallot and onions together. You can always do less, especially if you have troubles digesting it. Pop that guy in there. I'm gonna give this a quick stir before this gets too full. And as you can see, it's just, when they're all cut so small, it's so beautiful. The colors marry so well together. I'm salivating. Garlic. I used 3 cloves. You can cut out the core, or you can also pre-roast it. This is the juice and rind or zest of 1 lime and half of a jalapeno. Now, with a jalapeno, the heat isn't actually in the flesh most of the time. The heat is more in this membrane and the seeds. For half of the jalapeno in our dish, I did include the seeds and the white tissue, but for the other half I won't, because I don't want this to be too spicy. If you have old folks or friends who aren't good with spice, cut it all out, don't worry about it. The flavor will still be there from the flesh of the jalapeno, and it's not worth them not being able to eat your delicious salsa. So again, this was just a quick matchstick. Okay, now I'm not gonna do 8 passes over this jalapeno, but you guys will get the idea. Jalapeno in particular, if you get too big of a bite, sometimes it's just like, woo! And then you start sweating, or if you're like my dad, it's embarrassing, you turn beet red. starts rolling down the face, getting on the neck of your shirt. When he was a teenager, he got into a competition with his friends to see who could eat the most hot peppers, and he and his best friend actually poisoned themselves. They both had to go to the hospital. It's not a good scene, so I don't recommend it. Hot pepper eating contest? Not so much. Okay, now zest and lime, plus a little bit more jalapeno. And then cilantro. Now, I love cilantro, and I love the color it brings to the salsa and the flavor. I use about half of a bunch of cilantro, so when you get a bunch from the grocery store, it'll probably be a couple handfuls. Separate it in half, and that's a good practical measure for salsa. Excellent. Now there's not a lot of spices that go into this because the ingredients themselves, especially if you buy organic, will be so powerful. I use a little bit of olive oil and salt and pepper because I think it rounds off the flavors really nicely. I use sea salt because I prefer it. It's more sustainable than a Himalayan rock salt. I like quite a bit because if you've ever had just a tomato sandwich or something, a touch of salt really enhances it and brings it out, and it's the same thing in a salsa. Pepper, a few grinds, a little olive oil. Just make it a little greasy and nice. Now it's swimming. The longer you wait, if you make this the day before, the flavors get to marry, and I think it's a lot better. But feel free to dig in immediately. Sometimes I don't even wait to open the bag of chips, and I will just eat it with my spoon. Oh man, look at that. Look at that salsa, the color, the merriment of flavors. Now if you don't mind, I'm gonna take a snack and take a break. You can check out more recipes of mine at thebowglowmethod.com.